Well, it's been a while since I've done one of these, if you couldn't tell already. I've been told that the first minute is quite important for viewer retention, so I'll quickly introduce myself. Uh, Hi, everyone. My name is Shridhaj. I'm a 22-year-old firmware engineer at an IoT company. I am a 2025 Electronics and Telecommunications Engineering graduate, and I'm based in Pune. Um, as you have seen the title of this video, this is just a year in review of a local man. I am a very ordinary engineer who works within the core electronics industry, and I believe I've had quite an eventful 2025, and that is what I'm here to talk about. Plain and simple, clear as day. Right now, I do have a book of notes because I wanted to do this right. So if you see me, look down a bit, this is what I'm referring to. So the first half of this year was spent as a student, as a college student, and the second half of this year was spent as a working professional, as a full-fledged firmware engineer. Uh, Not really. I was a Linux kernel developer for like a couple months. Then I switched jobs. I will talk about that in the later parts of this video. But the premise of this part is that this has been a very split year for me because I spent the first half within the confines of a college and within the protection that the student life offers. And in the second half, it was a switch for me because all of that was stripped away and then the adult life started happening. So that is what made this year quite eventful for me. It gave me the best of both worlds and the worst of both worlds as well. I took the carefree joys of being a student, and in the second half I had the freedom but the responsibility of being a working professional, of being a full-fledged adult. So that is what made this year probably the most impactful that I've had in the 22 I've lived so far. We do keep saying this every single year because of recency bias and the new things that we experience. But I genuinely feel that this year and the things that it taught me has not ever happened in any of the single years I've spent on this earth so far. I'm rambling a bit, but yeah, that is what you guys would look forward to. Now, I started this year as a embedded R&D intern at a German automotive company in Pune. It was a year-long internship. It started in May of 2024 and it ran all the way till May of 2025, which is this year. Right? And I was within the embedded R&D team of an automotive company. And the title is a bit misleading because all that I was doing there was software testing and QA work, which was not the direction that I wanted my career to start or end up in. Software testing is something I have vehemently been against doing as my day job. I realize the importance of the role, but it is not something that will get me out of bed every single morning and be excited to work as. So I was quite clear that this is not something that I want to do in my life. And since I had about 6 more months of my internship left, I decided that, you know what, even if they give me a return offer, I'm not going to accept it because I do not wish to do software testing for any part of my career. And that's why I decided to start looking for opportunities outside of my internship organization. Now, if any of you guys know anything about the job market, it's fucked. It's quite lit. It's quite simply fucked. I apologize for the apologize for the profanity, but there's no other way to put it. The tech market, the automotive market, especially, like, there are mass firings happening everywhere. Interns are not being converted. People who are on apprenticeships are being let go or being told to resign. It's a lot, right? The software developer market is even more screwed, as most of you guys might already know. So during all of this peril, I still decided that even if they give me a return offer, I'm not going to join, and I need to start looking for the opportunities. And I did find one. I in fact converted it, and it was for a role which was probably the dream role that I could have had. So I was no intern. I was looking for other jobs, and I found one at a startup as a Linux kernel developer. It's a startup in Surat. I won't go into many more details, but they were offering a position as a Linux kernel developer for uh, basically SOMs and SOCs that they were developing themselves. So they were in the business of making customized motherboards or single board computers, and my job there would have been to develop the Linux kernel and develop flavors of Linux kernel that are custom made for their hardware and for the motherboard that they were designing. It was quite an interesting role. The interview process was quite long. It spanned over 2 to 3 weeks. I assume there were 3 rounds, or no, there were 2 rounds. The first one was a task-based round uh, where I had to write a circular linked list as a Linux kernel module, which would handle three user space programs: one that would push data onto the circular linked list, one that would read the program data from the circular linked list. It was a very, very challenging role. I met a whole lot many people on Discord and online while I was researching on how to get this task done. It was one of the most rewarding interview like experiences I've had. I did write the kernel module. I passed the first round. I went on to the second one, which was a interview round. The interviewer grilled me for like 2 hours straight, but by the end of everything, I got the job. Right, they did go into a bit more details about the implementation of the circular linked list in the Linux kernel module, the task which I did in the first round. And yeah, end of the day, I had the job in my bag. It was a 6 month internship, which would then get converted onto a full time opportunity. The pay was decent. I say decent. It was a bit on the lower scale of the range that someone of that role would get, but I was desperate. I did not want the software testing job which my internship was offering me, so I was desperate for something new, and that's how I accepted this one. Right, the terms were that I would join the startup once I graduated, which would have been in May. So I was graduating on May 15th, May 16th, and I was due to join the startup on the 1st of June. I was excited through the roof. I was so happy that I got something which I actually could look forward to. And boy, oh boy, January was one of the most, pinnacle of satisfaction, if you would call that, because I got the role of being a Linux kernel developer. And the reason why I say this is because I have not, like, at that point of time, I had not met or talked to a single Linux kernel developer from the circle of engineers that I was within. So I did my engineering from a college in Pune, right? And there are not many people who do Linux kernel development or who are aware of such a role existing and all those things. So getting something like this and to look forward to joining and working something which goes into such depth was one of the most exciting things that has happened to me this year. That was all about January, and the next month, Feb, was a bit of turmoil because my internship was closing in. I was about to finish my last semester of college. It was assignments, deadlines, internship projects, the final year cornerstone project that I was working on, reviews, meetings. It was a whole lot of pressure, a whole lot of caffeine, and boy oh boy, February was one of the most stressful months that I've had all this year, right? Then we come to March. March was crunch time. March was when all the deadlines were simultaneously on my head, all the reviews, all the final submissions, all the assignments, and then on top of it, the exam preparation for the final exam of my engineering life, which was due in April. All of it culminated into one single action-packed month for me, right? So I had my cornerstone project reviewed. I did the manufacturing. We wrote software. We designed circuits. We made PPTs. We did a whole lot of it. I am due to make a video on what the hell did I actually do in my final year project, which I haven't gotten to, but I soon will. I promise it is going to come out at some point of time. I've been saying this for like a year or something. It hasn't happened yet. It will happen. I'm promising that on record, on video, that I will explain what the hell did I actually do in my BTech final year project, right? But yeah, March was probably one of the most stressful months that I've had in this entire year, because a whole lot was going on my head, uh, both personally and academically and professionally as well. I can't, I can never forget the internship deadlines and the reviews and the client side calls that I had all during that month. It was one of the most turbulent and one of the most stressful months of this year. Then came April. April was uh, April was something else, man. So I took a month long leave from my internship. I straight up walked to my manager and told him that, hey, look, I have my semester's final exam, I have my internship reviews, and I have my final year project submission. I need to be at my college almost every single day, and I need some time off from work. I have completed all my projects and all my deadlines. Is it possible for me to take a month long leave so that I can take care of my academics? My manager was like, yes, it is absolutely possible for you to do that. Just draft a mail that states all these reasons, tag the HR within it. It will be unpaid if you're fine with it. Go ahead and take the month long leave. And I said, fine, fair enough. I'm not that worried and that concerned about the money as of now because I need to graduate on time. I need to get my degree, right? And that's what I did. I said, boss, I need to take a month off. Please grant me a leave. And he said, fine, fair enough. I took the month off. I came back, spent every single day in college, and this is where the crunch began, like really began. So my final year project was to basically make a control system for a four-wheeled robot, and we, like the dumbasses that we are, decided to manufacture the entire robot ourselves and develop the hardware ourselves and write the software ourselves. We did not outsource a single thing. We ended up partially completing our project, but this was the time where I was manufacturing an entire chassis. I was writing software for it as well, which was the major role that I had since I was an embedded software engineer at that time, right? I was preparing for my end semester, and in the second part of April, we had our end semester. So in the third and the fourth week, it was the final exam of my engineering career. It was exams upon exams upon exams. We had practicals, we had external reviews, we had project submissions. All of it had to be delivered. This was like fourth quarter of the entire game, right? All the work that we had done over the past 4 years, all of it culminated into one bit, and that was where we had to show up and we had to deliver and give proof of what the hell have we been doing for the past 4 years. Essentially, that's what cornerstone projects and that's what the final semester of engineering usually happens to be. And yeah, April was probably one of the most satisfying months that I've had from an academic perspective because it really validated every single thing that I had done as an engineering student, in the past 4 years into like one single month, which is the final semester report. Uh, there's this one anecdote I have from April. So we were presenting our final year projects, right? And there was this guy from TCS who was the external reviewer that we had. I was the only one who was speaking from my group, and all the questions that were directed to our group were being answered by me. Upon the end of the questionnaire, the external walked up to me and he looked me dead in my eyes and he asked me, do you have any offers? I replied to him that I have a couple with me in my hand, and the follow-up question was, "Would you like to work at a project that we have at TCS?" And I said, "I have already committed to a couple companies, so I don't think I'll be able to do that." And the look of dejection on that guy's face, that God damn it, I would have loved to have you on my team, was one of the most satisfying things that has happened to me in my engineering life. Because keep in mind, the external was like 16, 17 years experience in the industry, right? And just upon hearing the work that we put into our BTech project, the dude decides to come up to me and try to offer me a position or an interview or some sort of thing. He basically decided to check my availability if I would have been open to a project that he had some sort of knowledge on. So getting that validation on the basis of a 15-minute conversation was one of the most satisfying things that has happened to me during my engineering career, if that makes any sense to you guys. Then the month of May. College ends. I am no longer a college student. I am no longer just another student. I am no longer a kid. I am a working professional, or at least I'm expected to be a working professional now. And it closed one of the beautiful chapters of my life. I know I'm just a 22-year old, but college was, yeah, it was amazing, man. I'm at a loss of words when I try and tell the tales or sum it up. But yeah, the chapter of me being just a kid, me being just a student, it ends right then and there. And all I have to look forward to now is to actually work as an engineer, right? So if you guys remember the January part, I mentioned that I was due to work at a startup. May end, their final offer arrives. I have to sign the offer letter and I have to go off to a whole new state, a whole new city. The startup was based in Surat in Gujarat, and I had to immigrate from Mumbai, which is my hometown, to Surat. And yeah, that was one of the things that I had to look forward to. And yeah, May was the closure of a chapter. I'm no longer just a kid. I am a working professional now, and I had hopes and dreams like all of us have. They were about to be crushed soon, obviously, but I was very optimistic and very happy about the things that were coming, or supposed to come my way, right? June. So May of last week and the first week of June, I moved to Surat. I had two bags and a guitar with me. I found a place at Surat. I decided to uproot myself from the culture and the city that I've grown up with onto a whole new city, a whole new state, a whole new experience. New food, new languages, new people, unknown everything. It was quite exciting, if I'm being very honest with you guys. I was so stoked. It was something else, man. So my father was gracious enough to drive me, and my mother was with me as well. So the three of us put our bags in a car, and then we rode off to Surat. I had a room rented there. I settled there quickly, and I was about to start my life as a Linux kernel developer. I was so happy that I'm getting to work at a startup that's made in India, that's catering towards the Indian market, and all those nationalism things that I still have in my mind, right? The first thing I get to work on was the process of a board bring up. So there was a all-winner 820 based SoC that the company had. It was a quite old board that they had. They used that to train any new Linux kernel developer that joins them. And the first task I had was to complete the board bring up process. So I got my experience with U-boot. I got my experience with the three-stage bootloaders. I got my experience with how to load the bootloader, the DTBO, the kernel, and then the file system onto it. Then how do we customize the file system? How do we customize it on the runtime? How do we compile the Linux kernel for like specifically for the bootloader, for the board that we have? It was a whirlwind. I did that in 3 days. I was one of the fastest ones to complete the bootloader process, the bring up process at that company. It was my first real taste with the Linux kernel, with the whole developmental flow, and it was so fun, boys. I loved doing that. I loved banging my head on a terminal and trying to flash and trying to dig through the error messages that came up on the URTTY terminal that I had. It was one of the best things that I worked on. Once I completed that, I was assigned on to the Yocto based tasks that they had. So the whole idea was to develop a Yocto image for the boards that the company was building, and I was in charge of two things. The first one, upgrading the Yocto version up to the latest standards, and the second thing was to update the Linux kernel version that was being used onto the Yocto project. So I did a whole lot of things. I learned about the Bitbake, task executor. I learned about the entire Yocto project. I did so much, man. Although I did not particularly I did not particularly like it. I kind of hated it because I had this hopes and dreams that I was a Linux kernel developer. I was going to work on Linux kernel modules. I was going to work on the actual kernel itself, or some sort of subsystem of the kernel. And my expectations were unrealistic, which I now realize, but I did not back then. But yeah, I was expecting something else, and I was working on something that was completely different from what I expected. So there was a mismatch there, and there were salary issues. We weren't getting paid on time, and I was spending money out of my own pocket just to live there, just to pay rent, just to pay for food. It was not really sustainable for me, and the working hours were kind of brutal, which was something I had known, but I did not know just how taxing they would be on my health and my body. uh, Knowing all of that, I decided to resign at the end of July. Spent 2 months at that startup working there as a Linux kernel developer, but I had to resign, and it was back to square one. July end and the first couple weeks of August was some of the most challenging and some of the most stressful times that I've had as an engineer myself, because I fought with my parents in order to join a startup. They were of the view that you should join an MNC, you should join the safer option, you should join something that will get you a stable income. I was of the view that a startup will help me learn more, it will help me expand my knowledge base more, right? And I had fought with my parents that no, I'm going to the startup, come what happens. And here I was, like a couple months later, resigning without a job, technically unemployed. I say technically, I was fucking unemployed, and I was in hunt. And on top of it, I had this smart idea of not registering for the campus placements of my college. So the placement cell was of no help for me as well, and I was on my own. I was unemployed and I was in Mumbai with my parents, living at my parents' house. And yeah, I had to look for another job, or I could have gone for higher education, or I could have gone for some sort of certification courses. I had a whole lot of thoughts in my mind, and I did not know how to process them. I did not know what to do next, and I was in limbo, if I'm being quite honest. But then something clicked. I said, look, I fucked up, quite literally, but I cannot let this define who I am or what I do for the next year or two of my life. I have to find something better for myself, and no one is going to just come and hand it to me, right? I have to make a couple splashes myself, and let's see how that goes. So keep in mind, I have never had Wi-Fi at my home. We have never had a stable internet connection at our homes simply because it was supposed to be too expensive. But when I came back after resigning, when I was back home, technically still unemployed, I fought with my parents about getting a Wi-Fi connection. I paid for the router, I paid for the internet service provider, I paid for the whole thing, and I was hell bent and adamant that we are getting a Wi-Fi whether you like it or not. I got the Wi-Fi connection. I got on Twitter. I got on LinkedIn. I updated my resume, and yeah, it was cold DMs, courses, revision of what I have done and what I have learned so far, and straight up applications, applications, applications. I did that for 2 weeks straight with no luck, no major luck. That's when I had my first break. I got an interview, and then the next one, and then the next one, and within a week, I had like a couple interviews done, and I had an offer from a company in Bangalore. It was all said and done. I was supposed to move there. I had booked my stay. I had booked my flight tickets. I had done everything. But then I got another call from a company in Pune. They said, will you be willing to interview with us if you would like to still do that? I explained the whole situation to them, and long story short, I'll give you a bit of a timeline, right? It was Thursday when I got the call from the company in Pune. They asked if you would be okay on coming for an interview on Monday. I said that I have a joining in the company in Bangalore on Monday itself. But since tomorrow is Friday and I still technically have a day, can you move my interviews up on Friday itself? They got back to me after a couple hours and said, fine, we'll do it on Friday. My interview was scheduled at 11 o'clock on Friday. Like a dumbass, I reached there at 9:30 a.m. in the morning. They were gracious enough to move up the interviews at 10 a.m. I gave 4 rounds of interviews that day. And keep in mind, this is Friday. Next day is Saturday, Raksha Bandhan, right? Uh, I still remember I was in a state transport bus from Pune back to Mumbai at 6:30 p.m. In the evening. I had given 4 rounds of interviews at various levels of management, all the way from the hiring manager to the CTO of the company. And at 6:30 p.m., I'm hanging on to dear life, no, in an ST bus, in a state transport bus, and I get a call from the CTO along with the HR that congratulations, you have been selected, for the role, and we would just like an email confirmation from you, preferably by the end of today. Take your time, get back home safely, and once you are well settled, just send us an email confirmation, and then we'll start the offer rollout from the next Monday. I was like, thank you so much, guys. I was still clinging on to my dear life in a state transport bus. Keep in mind, the next day is Raksha Bandhan. So it's already crowded, but yeah, that's how I got the offer. August was one of the best like months I've had because I was not unemployed anymore. and I turned 22. My birthday is on 17th August, and my new company's joining was on 18th August. So it was a month of celebrations for me. I came back to Pune, the city I spent 4 years of my life at while I was in my engineering. I reconnected with my friends. I reconnected with this thing right here, Team Automatons, my college's robotics team, which I was a part of for about 3 years. Uh, and yeah, August was absolutely amazing, man. I got back to being employed again, and like earning some money again, which was very very satisfying. And look, once you go through this whole ringer of moving to another city, working a job, resigning a job, coming back, being unemployed, finding another offers, and then starting a new job again, it instills a sort of self-confidence within you that you don't really get by doing anything else. The whole engineer's ringer, as I like to call it, it does something to you, man. And if you survive this, you have this inherent self-belief and self-esteem and self-confidence that no matter what happens, you'll be all right. And once you have that belief, you start getting confident, and that's when you start spreading your wings and becoming the better version of yourself, as I like to believe it. And that was all about how August ended. I'm looking at my notes again. This is going to be a long video, by the way, if you couldn't already tell. Yeah, September. That's when I started, working back full fledged. The last week of August was kind of an introductory period for me at my new organization. In September, I started working, full fledged with tasks and deadlines and whatnot again. I was working on the networking subsystem of Linux, which was one of my tasks one of the first tasks at my new company. So I was working on a product which is basically a industrial mini PC at this new company that I had, and I was in charge of developing the whole networking stack of this new mini PC. So it had a couple Ethernet ports, it has a Wi-Fi chip, it has a LTE SIM card slot, and I was in charge of writing Linux software and interfacing with all these hardware peripherals that we've had. So I was in charge of configuring DHCP clients and DHCP servers. I was in charge of interacting with the LTE interface. I was in charge of interacting with the Wi-Fi card, setting it up as an access point or as a client. I was in charge of writing NAT tables and connecting and post routing all of these interfaces with each other. I was in charge of giving user the configurability in order to do that. So let's say the user wants to connect a NAT route between the Wi-Fi chip and one of the Ethernet ports. He can do that via a UI that we made. And I started exploring Linux again. I started exploring the depths of IP tables, the depths of NAT routing, the depths of the whole networking stack of Linux, and I somehow had my joy back. This task and working on this product, it brought the happiness back in kernel development and working with Linux for me. So that was one of the best things to happen all throughout September. And I started playing football again. I started playing regular, consistent, twice a week football again. I was like simply loving life, coming back to Pune and working this job, and the whole plethora of things that come with it, right? In October, I was in the process of wrapping up my tasks on Linux. I was kind of done with writing and developing the whole networking stack for it. I learned a whole lot of things. I learned about bash scripting. I learned about the networking stack, as I've mentioned about 6 times already in this video. And as soon as I was wrapping up my work there, a new project popped up. Embedded graphics was one of the most like more fascinating things that I've had my experience working on. I have a blog that is basically my notes while I was researching the networking stack. It is one of the most viewed and one of the most read blogs that I've ever put out. And my manager walks up to me and says, "Hey, we have a embedded graphics task that we would like for you to take up. Would you be interested in doing that?" And I said, "Fuck yes, bring that on, man." So as October closed and as November started, I started working on the embedded graphics part. I was in charge of developing the UI. I was in charge of developing the C++ backend, in charge of interacting with the firmware side of what is to be displayed. Long story short, the company I work at makes an energy meter which has a LCD display on top of it. and I am in charge of designing, implementing, testing, debugging the entire screens of the LCD display that we have. So we measure three-phase AC voltage in real time, we break it down to its frequency spectrum, we analyze it, and we provide real-time data and real-time insights for it onto the screen and onto the cloud. That is what we do. So the onto the screen part is what I handle. It's been a blast, man. I have worked to like I get to work with DMA, I get to work with graphics memory, I get to work with designing UI, I get to work with frame buffer strategies, I work on pixel rendering. It's genuinely like one of the more fun things that I've had. Like I had this idea of what an embedded engineer does in his or her life, right? While I was in college, while I was still studying, and the work that I am doing now is the definition of what I had as my hopes and dreams in mind. And yeah, that that would sum up the months of the year and no, the sort of year I've had so far. Now is the closing bit. There are a couple regrets that I've had this year that I would like to put on record and be on camera while I'm at it. The number one regret is I could have been a better student. I could have put in more work at the college. I could have gone deeper within the core subjects that I was studying for my degree. I could have done a whole lot more things better than what I did so far, and that is a regret that will stay with me. I could have used the freedom of being a student and the whole college life a lot more better. The second regret I would have is I did not take the research paper like seriously. I should have put in more work on getting it published. I should have done a whole lot better there. The reason why I feel this way is because two things. One, it opens up a whole lot more opportunities for you if you are a published author of a research paper, and two, it helps you with your master's application should you ever choose to go for a master's. So if you're a published author in an IEEE journal and the quality of your paper is good, if you've presented it at a decently recognized conference, it adds a lot more weight to your application and it opens up a lot more opportunities for you in the future. The third thing that I regret is I could have been a better friend. uh, I've done a lot of snaking in my college, so I'll be very honest with you guys. I was a very selfish person in college. I had this goal, I had a mission, as I like to call it, of achieving something, and I did quite literally whatever it took to get there. I double crossed people, I backstabbed a whole lot. I got backstabbed a bit as well. I did a lot of selfish things that I now wish I could have done differently. When I realized this, I tried to rebuild some of the bridges that I had previously burned. I did successfully rebuild a few of them, but a few of them still stay cracked. And I now realize that I could have gone and taken a better road at getting to where I wanted to, but it is what it is, and there's not much that I can do about it now, or so I believe. And the last regret that I have is that I could have been less distracted, which is something I still quite struggle with. Distractions are quite strong when it comes to me, and I have to work on it. I will try and work on it in 2026. Hopefully, the next year, 12 months from now, that I put out the next one. Hopefully, this doesn't still stay on top of my regrets list. But yeah, those are the regrets. And finally, uh, we talk about people, right? There are a lot of people who I would genuinely like to thank, although there are a few names that I would like to be on record when I make this video. I have a list, and I'm really sorry if I missed out a few of you guys. But let me just get this off of my chest. Anuj Raut, Rohan Sangre, Avid from Twitter. I'm not revealing your actual name. Omkar Vadvankar, Pushkar, Akshay, Ayush, Chinmay, Nidhi and Prabhakar, roll number 192, 191, and me being 193. Aditya Kulkarni, you know who you are. Rashmi, Shanika, the whole entirety of Team Automatons. a couple people from the startup that I mentioned, Rishikesh Gandhi, Avish Arora, Lalit. Yeah, off the top of my head, these are the people who I would genuinely like to thank for being there for me and with me throughout all of my highs and lows. You guys have seen the better and the worst of me, Trupti, as well. Yeah, I'm not too good at thanking people, uh, but I hope that you guys realize that you did genuinely make this year for me a bit more livable and a lot more manageable, if that makes any sense to you guys. And yeah, that would be all. This has been quite a long video, but I hope that you stuck to the end. If you did, please drop a comment letting me know that you did make it to the end of the video. And I wish a very happy and a very prosperous 2026 to all of you and to me as well. But for me and for in my case, I have to make it happy and prosperous for myself, right? Yeah, that would be all. I don't know how to close out videos, so bye.